Welcome back guys on Deathblow Podcast, a new episode. If you want to listen to my old episode, just check on my YouTube channel and even on Spotify, Google Podcast and Apple Podcast. If you just want to write me a message, just write me on Instagram and even on Facebook. Are you ready for this new episode on Satyricon Part 2? So let's start. And now the first studio album of Satyricon is obviously Dark Medieval Times, released in 1994 but recorded in August-September 1993 at the Nesodden Musikverksted studio, and Satyr is the producer at this time. Here the lineup is Satyr on vocals, guitar and bass, Frost on drums, Le Marchand Howard Jørgensen on guitars, and Torden, keyboardist. What I admire about this Satyricon is the cover album, that there is this castle that reminds me of Transylvania, and especially medieval age, in particular the castles, medieval castles, even ancient and dark stories, which even Pelle was fascinated about the Transylvanian landscape. This is a 10+ for the Satyricon cover album. It is amazing. Just admiring that is a piece of art. Makes me think to a fantasy books that talk about even medieval times, released by Moonfog Productions in 1994. Let's analyze a little bit the lyrics of this Satyricon album, Dark Medieval Times. Walk the Path of Sorrow lyrics are full of darkness, especially about pain. Behind the mountains there must be a key to the gates. Maybe I refer to Bursu, that composed the song Key to the Gate? We will never know. But it's important to let the curiosity be filled in your mind. Two shades of the midnight fire in the night sky, you waiting child, walk with me, walk by side of fall. The essence to open those gates, and still we must walk the path of sorrow. Makes me think to a path in the other side, like the person dies and moves probably in another dimension, or maybe it's just in your mind that you should go in another dimension. Food for thought, people, which it is important to talk about it. In the world of sorrow, the air and my heart full of luster. Here I think is describing how the person is suffering inside, which it is important to let this depression, this darkness out, because it's very therapeutic. And even talking about darkness is very therapeutic. I really like the lyrics in Dark Medieval Times song. The secret lights in the sky, vision, all one it seems. Here, up on the hill, you all find wisdom, which is very important to even reason about it. Being up on the hill and think about wisdom makes me think that you can find knowledge, maybe. Depends on what he wants to describe into these lyrics. Because if he says the blades are sharpened, they will all learn. Yes, destroy your dream, your desert of dreams. It's undeserved for Dark Medieval Times. Makes me think to a killing, like to kill the other person, the adversary, to reach your dream. It seems like a war, but it is not described as a war. Seems like more a war for knowledge, which is like here up on the hill you all find wisdom. I don't know what he is talking about. Skygedans is totally in Norwegians and means shadow dance. Translated a little bit in English, he says risk wins. Then he talks about nature, an infected tree, tears, live in vain, and all tears in games. Then here he talks about why love is everything. Where were you? Is everything grief? Where were you? Is all life dark? Where were you? Is everything dead? Here he wants to represent the darkness, not only about the nature, but even inside of us, like that love could kill inside. He's talking like a grief, that life could be even dark, that you can be dead inside while you're living. So you are feeling death inside of you, but you are living. Very amazing, even this one. Min hyllest till Winterland means my tribute to Winterland, and here it says, we are Vikings of the cold winter, land a throne of black souls. Here he refers about the Vikings, the soldiers ready to die, ready to kill, to defend their own lands in the coldest winter, which it is very amazing. I really like the lyrics in Into the Mighty Forest. As I walk with a spirit into the binding forest, in fog and darkness I walk, I disappear into the mighty forest. Makes me think of a process of evolution, like we disappear but we could change into our life. We could change, it could be stronger than before. I disappear into the mighty forest. That means nobody can hear me, nobody can perceive me here, but I am present in myself. A process of evolution, like a person walks into the forest, like a process of growth, a knowledge and awareness inside, which it is amazing to talk about the nature as a world of evolution and change. I like to see the universe in this way, especially the nature. You can change into this world and you can be a different person while you walk into this land. I really like the lyrics of The Dark Castle in the Deep Forest. Even here he talks about the fog, the forest, the nature. They moved in deeper, so dark that they weren't even to lead us past by this wicked dance. I can feel the presence of the shadow throne in the deepest dark, which it is amazing to let this darkness bend. When night came and dark fog came over me, let the thought come to me as they walk right by. When all the death is near, I wander eternally, invincible fog is near, we walk the fields of war. Here it talks about a war, an army that walks and fights against other soldiers, other lands, and makes me think even a fight against the nature. You cannot fight against the nature because the nature always wins against the human being. The human being is not invincible against the nature. Invincible fog is near. We walk the fields of war makes me think this, that when nature decides by its own, or you should live or die, that means that you don't have any power in this world. And this is important to think about it. And now let's talk about Tåkeslotte, that means Tåke Castle. Far into the forest, behind a waterfall and trees, walk a path into the trees of the forest. He always talks about the nature and the darkness, even here. In fog and light, throughout the world black, forward I task sky, the independent. Like I was telling before, you cannot go against the nature, even if you try. And here Satyr, writing these lyrics, he even explains that throughout the world black, forward I task sky, the independent. Why is independent? Because you cannot choose for it, for the universe, for the nature. Cook and trap. Out of fear and lust and fear of a gain, talk a castle, everything for one, changing everything. Their darkness draws. A calling for the nights, inside it, take it back, the one who was a spirit. Here's the term fear of a game. It's like life could be even scary for the knights and soldiers, which it is very particular to even think about this. The nature with its own force could change people's lives. Let's analyze a little bit the arrangement of this album. I really like this wind effect at the beginning and this chaos with the voices of females and this keyboard that want to represent the chaos itself, which it is amazing. I really like this keyboard part with the strings and orchestral part. Makes me think that something is going to haunt a dark castle or a dark medieval castle. Why not? Makes me think to Transylvania, even this part of these two keyboards parts, which is amazing. This explosion of fast riffs and fast drums, which it is very good, with the keyboard on the background. Satyr voice is very good. The beginning reminds me a little bit of Bulsum. It's like you can mix together the dark ambient track with the classic Bulsum album. This arpeggio reminds me even of Bulsum, but especially Bathory, like Hammer Art album. And then start again with this Bulsum effect with the keyboard and the satyr voice that is very dark. I really like the effect of the keyboard on the background, which it is amazing. Creates a good effect. I really like these effects on the guitars that are delay and reverb effect, which is very good. It's like you are inside the cathedral, a dark cathedral, inside a castle, of course. A sound that comes from afar and that gets near to you. Good this blessed beat at half of the first song. They both create the purest black metal form together. Good exchange of tempo with this large room effect, like a cathedral, like I was telling. Frost here, the technique on the drums is very amazing, and it's always equal to each other, doesn't get slow at all, which means that it's black metal from the beginning until the end. And this keyboard effect is the key of Satyricon, because they are able to create the perfect atmosphere of this dark castle. The major influence, like I said, even on the two previous demos, is obviously Bulsum. I perceive from the guitar technique and even of the drum technique is Bulsum that is very present, the influence. I really like this exchange of tempo at half of the song, of Frost on the drums being more slow but always powerful because the blast beat is very present, and the satyr vocals are incredible. Here I see two talented musicians that they know what they want and they reach their perfect level of black metal in their rawest form. And second track I could say is one of my favorite from the album. The Euronymous riff here is very present with this perfect scale and these fast riffs, and obviously even the drums are very fast. Reminds me a lot to Mayhem. Dissonant chords are the key here, and Satyr and Frost know this very well. I could perceive Mayhem and Darkatron, especially in this track, because of the drum variation of the tempo. Reminds me a lot to A Blazing Northern Sky. Good variation of the tempo of the drums, which is perfect. I really like the riffs that I listen on this track. And satyr vocals create the perfect atmosphere and landscape especially. The drums are not particularly fast like the previous track. Here they created the perfect melody for a black metal song that comes from classical music like Bach, Mozart. They listen a lot of classical music, and I perceive from the orchestral parts that I listen on the album. Even this arpeggio of the classic acoustic guitar that I listen in the background together with the electric guitars create the atmosphere like a battery, but even Bursum, like drawing a painting. This is art in the purest form into black metal. I really like this arpeggio with this wind effect, so this is very the battery influence here. It's very black atmospheric black metal. And then this explosion with heavy riffs, heavy guitars, and blast beat in the purest form of black metal is good because the track is worth the value when it contains a lot of variation of the tempo on the drums and even on the bass and on the guitars. This flute effect is amazing, makes me think to fantasy books or even about Scandinavian legends. And of course makes me think to medieval age because the flute was very present into medieval songs. I really like this piece with the flute and the acoustic guitar and these distortion riffs that create the same atmosphere of the acoustic guitar and the flute makes me think to represent the medieval sound, the medieval music into black metal. How powerful! I really like this atmosphere with the keyboard and the flute together with the drums to create this dark ambient track, and they reached a very good level with this song. Third track beginning is very good with this obviously distortion guitars and even these dissonant chords to create this black metal atmosphere and subtle vocals with this large room effect, this reverb effect. Good exchange of tempo of the drums and even of the guitar riffs. Good dissonant chords with the subtle vocals that is very high. And the keyboard in the background that creates the perfect atmosphere. It is awesome. Even this track is very good. We could say that these two tracks are very similar with these arpeggios, with the acoustic guitars, with these distortion riffs, with the electric guitars, contain a lot of variations. This track in particular reminds me to Bursum, even if the Varga Vikernes vocals are totally different from Satyr vocals. This part reminds me of Mayhem, especially the riffs and the scales. Fourth track starts always with the wind, and this flute with the acoustic guitar to create this medieval structure, which is particular and makes me think to classical music that is the key and the bass to play this type of music. Good slide of the acoustic guitar and good arpeggio part. The song is Norwegian and the subtle vocals is so low and creates the perfect atmosphere for this track. Makes me think to darkness inside the soul of a person. Next track contains a beautiful overture with the keyboard and this heavy guitar. The drums remind me to medieval songs, which is very particular for a black metal sound. They point so much on the atmosphere that they are able to create with their own instruments. especially with the vocals and with the acoustic and electric guitars. Good blast beat of Frost here, and the vocals of Satyr. It is an explosion of sadness and darkness. Keyboard that creates the perfect landscape of darkness. This track reminds me a lot to Burzum's first album. Whisper vocals of Satyr is very particular. Makes me think that you enter in a dark place and you listen a voice that comes from a place that you are not able to see, like shadows. The riffs makes me think to mayhem and even a little bit to thrash metal. The structure is a little bit similar, but obviously different, because in black metal the structure of the song, the entire song, is totally different from thrash metal. For a short time it's present dissonant chords and with the keyboard that creates that atmosphere of darkness, which is perfect. I really like the strings effect of the keyboard and then solo parts. Technically speaking, is very good this album, I need to admit this. Contains a lot of variation from low notes to high notes. Next track makes me think immediately to Burzum effect, with these drums and heavy guitars, with the distortion and even the reverb and delay on Satyr vocals creates the perfect atmosphere that I cannot even describe through words. When you listen to black metal, it's always there. The atmosphere. I really like this keyboard effect with the strings and the heavy guitars that follow the keyboard. It's like a trip, this album. Good exchange of tempo of the drums, which I really like this tempo variation to don't let the person be tired, because when the ear is tired is not able to concentrate, and when you listen all the same notes all together you are not satisfied. Instead it's good to variate the drums, the riffs. This is the most important thing inside an album. The organ effect on the keyboard, it is amazing with this possessed voice of Satyr. Good variation of tempo with this perfect riff and Satyr vocals. Amazing, amazing. I like this standard effect. They change the tempo and the atmosphere, which is amazing. Good blast beat and good exchange of riffs as well. Good and fast track and fast riffs as well, with these drums, fast drums. Fantastic! Next track contains a good drum effect with the keyboard and heavy riffs. I really like this change of tempo from faster to slower. They obviously took inspiration from classical music, and Burzum as an influence is very perceived. I really like the structure of the riffs in every single song. From dark ambient, classical music to rock music and even thrash metal, which I really like this variation of these dark riffs. I really like the effect of Satyr whispering and not doing the growl vocals or scream vocals. I really like this reverb effect into this large room effect when he's recording. They are very technical, not only on the acoustic part, but even on the electric guitar part. They are extremely technical, especially on the single notes. And I see and I perceive the technique even on the keyboard. The drums are very similar to Burzum from the first track to the final track. Could perceive this Burzum and dark thrown together as a big influence. This is Dark Medieval Times. This is Satyricon. Thank you to have participated with me to Satyricon Dark Medieval Times entire episode. Don't forget to subscribe on the YouTube channel, click on the bell, like and share, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Google Podcast and Apple Podcast. If you want to write me on DM, write me on Instagram and Facebook. Please follow me there. See you soon, guys.